Hi everyone, it's Shruti, and today I'm going to be talking about the CNA/nursing discourse community. Now, I wanted to clarify that I'm not a nurse, I'm just a CNA, which stands for Certified Nursing Assistant. CNAs do tasks like bathing and feeding the patient to relieve the workload of a nurse who has higher level tasks like administering medication to the patient. Although these are two separate professions, they go so hand in hand that it really only made sense to combine them into one discourse community. So I'm going to be starting off by talking about how I personally define the term discourse community. And in my own words, a discourse community is a group of people who meet Swale's 6 original or updated characteristics. Just to refresh your memory, I'm going to be going through the Swale's 6 original characteristics, which are 1, a broadly agreed set of goals, 2, intercommunication among members, 3, provides info and feedback, 4, uses genres to further communicative aims, 5, acquiring lexies, and 6, having a threshold number of members and expertise. I would like to note that my personal definition includes Swale's 6 original characteristics and his updated versions of them, but for time's sake, I'll only be discussing the first 2. The second part of my definition is that discourse communities are related to, but are separate from, speech and interpretive communities. Okay, next I'd like to talk about my 2 sources. So my first source is a journal article titled Reflections on a Concept of a Discourse Community, published by John Swales in the Jarris Review Journal, which is a journal for a specialized English study and research group. Swales published this article 30 years after his original book, Genre Analysis, English in Academic and Research Settings. In his article, Reflections on a Concept of a Discourse Community, Swales reflects and updates the original 6 criteria while adding on new criteria that applies to the CNA/nursing discourse community. Although my personal definition fits Swales' 6 original criteria and his updated versions of them, the 2 characteristics I'll go over today are mechanisms of intercommunication and broadly set of agreed goals. So one of the original 6 characteristics that Swales stated was that discourse communities use mechanisms of intercommunication. Swales updates his definition to emphasize how technology has become the new mode of intercommunication. This can be seen in the CNA/nursing discourse community, where members used to handwrite patient charts and documentation, but have now transitioned into using electronic health records, or EHRs for short. EHRs make it very easy to keep up-to-date patient information that's easily accessible to everyone. So what we have here is a screenshot of a common EHR called eClinicalWorks. As a CNA, I use eClinicalWorks often to intercommunicate with other nurses about what I've just performed on the patient, whether that be bathing them, feeding them, etc. This updated mechanism of intercommunication is way more convenient than handwriting patient documentation. Also, with eClinicalWorks, anyone can update the patient chart and view it with ease, which improves the efficiency within the CNA/nursing discourse community. So a vital part of discourse communities is their broadly agreed set of goals, which is a part of Swales' original criteria. CNAs and nurses meet this original definition because there's a common set of objectives all nurses and CNAs learn in CNA or nursing school, such as the common goal to always provide the best patient care possible. However, Swales updates his original definition and states that discourse communities have a potentially discoverable set of goals, meaning that discourse communities can have conflict or differing opinions on how to accomplish their collective goal. For example, in the CNA/nursing discourse community, one CNA may prefer to give a patient a bath with a certain routine that leaves the next CNA on duty with more work, which may upset the next CNA and lead to conflict. Thus, the CNA/nursing discourse community meets both Swales' original and updated criteria. So my next source is an article titled Discourse Communities and Communicative Genres, which was published in an anthology called Types of Text, Plot Patterns, Surfaces, and Linguistic Typologies of Communication. The article within the anthology was written by Noel Aplovich. Aplovich's article distinguishes discourse communities from speech and interpretive communities in a couple of ways. First, Aplovich states that the purpose of a speech community, such as Spanish speakers, is social interaction and connection. The source Discourse Communities and Communicative Genres goes on to claim that this is not the same as discourse communities because discourse communities have a clear-cut function or purpose. This can be seen in my CNA/nursing discourse community, where the purpose or function is to provide patient care and continually educate patients about health-related topics. Next, Applovich discusses how both discourse communities and interpretive communities both contain like-minded people with the same ideology towards a subject, but that discourse communities are the only community that collectively acts upon this ideology and works towards a common goal. For example, all university professors may value higher education, but their respective classes' purposes may differ, so that would be an interpretive community. This is in contrast to CNAs and nurses. As a CNA, I work together with nurses, and we work as one functional unit and complete tasks like bathing and feeding patients to accomplish our common purpose, which is an example of a discourse community. Lastly, Applovich addresses that a speech community can be joined by factors like birth, geographical region, or ethnicity, while discourse communities require a niche interest or specialized training. An example of a speech community is a group of people who are all born in Madrid, Spain. This speech community will speak Spanish to converse with one another, and they join the speech community by birth with no special effort of their own. Meanwhile, in the nursing/CNA discourse community, both nurses and CNAs have to take an online or in-person class with practicals. Personally, to become a CNA, I had to take a CNA class at Harper College, pass both the written and practical CNA exam, and have 40 hours of documented clinical supervision before I could even become a CNA. Thus, both nurses and CNAs have to gain the proper certification and education to be a part of the discourse community, unlike in a speech community where one can simply be born into it. So that wraps up my presentation on the CNA/nursing discourse community. And here is my sources or my works cited page about the 2 sources I talked today. Thank you guys for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.